Hi guys, so today I'm going to speak to you about how to turn a recession into an opportunity. Okay, we're going through the biggest recession in UK history and it's a very challenging time for a lot of people. But do you know what? There's a lot of doom and gloom at the moment, and understandably so. Many people are afraid of maybe losing their jobs, they're concerned about their well-being, concerned about their mental health and so on. There are lots of things going on. But I really want to make this video to, shed some positive light on how we might start to look at this current situation and perhaps look out for opportunities or, do things in a slightly different way in order to help us move forward. I want to look at my life from the last 2008 event and what I did around that time that helped me move along and see a radical change in our financial lives over those years up until now. I'm just going to share real life stories of various things that happened to me, and I hope that by sharing those stories you can feel a connection to the current moment and it will offer you some ideas for how to actually do some practical things to help you move forward in this current recession. My name is Ken of the Humble Penny and Financial Joy Academy. What we do on this channel here is to give you the tips, the insights, the practical hacks to help you work towards a dream life of financial independence and money joy. Okay, your journey to financial independence will include coming across recessions and coming across times of booms as well, okay, because these are different cycles within an economy, okay. But the current recession we're facing is one that was self-imposed because of what we've all seen around the world, the global pandemic, and the economy had to be shut down. But that then carried on and turned into something else, which is why we found ourselves where we are today. It's my belief that these points I'm going to share will help you take some practical steps to do things differently. And when you think of the word recession, in order to move forward, you also have to think opportunity. So let's dive in now and look at these specific points I've got to share. So the first point is to keep showing up. Okay, by this I'm talking about your work situation. So I'm going to make two assumptions here. The first assumption is that you are currently still in a job potentially. Okay, and the second assumption is that you've been made redundant, you've lost your job. So talking about the first assumption, that you've still got your job. If you've still got a job right now, fantastic. Or if you're furloughed but still being paid, fantastic. The point here is to keep showing up. By that I mean show up even more than you would ordinarily show up. And more specifically, try to learn even more within your work environment. Try to do even more, almost as though you're trying to do your boss's job, okay? Because by doing that, you make yourself even more useful to your employer, and by being seen to be more present and more positive in the kind of work environment, given most people will likely be doom and gloom and afraid, by being seen in that light, you're more likely to stand out and potentially retain your job opportunity. Now, with the second scenario, let's assume that you've been made redundant. Now, the story I've got around this is that I got made redundant myself in 2009. And I was afraid, I've got to be honest with you. Because at the time I just got my mortgage, my first mortgage in 2008, just bought my first property. And I was scared. But here's the thing, when you've been made redundant, as many people will be made redundant as well, fear kicks in, But the person who moves forward beyond that fear is that person who realizes that everybody else will remain in doom and gloom and not be practical to move themselves forward. And I remember when I got made redundant, I took my 3 months pay that I was given, and I remember speaking to my mum. My mum said, look, you've got what it takes, you've got the skills, you've got the abilities. Why don't you just get out there and really try your best to try and find a job? And at the time, this is 2009, you had the global financial crisis. You had the biggest thing at that time that we knew from an economic standpoint. It was a huge thing that happened. And, people were struggling to find jobs. And I went out there and carried on searching. And what was interesting at that time was that I focused on being creative with my search. So a practical suggestion is to use LinkedIn more effectively. At that time, I got LinkedIn Pro, I think it was called, or essentially the professional version of LinkedIn. And what that helped me to do was it helped me to reach out to specific individuals within companies who were decision makers. So I'd suggest getting that paid version of LinkedIn and begin to connect with people who perhaps work within the HR department of companies that you might want to work for in order to get in there first in building a relationship, just in case there are suitable opportunities that maybe haven't even been announced yet in the public domain. The second practical thing to do is to work on your personal brand. Focus a lot on your personal brand. Focus on being even more visible. It might be that you tweak your profile a lot more, such that your key strengths are jumping out. And the more you do that, the more visible you are on platforms like LinkedIn, for example, or even with agencies, the more visible you are in keeping up with them to make sure that you are right ahead of the queue when it comes to potential job opportunities, the more likely you are to be that person who finds a job within this current scenario. I've had a couple of friends who've actually found jobs in this current recession. In fact, one of them came to visit me at my house to ask me to offer a bit of a reference. And I did it. They found that job in the midst of this recession. Another person who I know got a job recently in this recession with a £30,000 pay rise. Okay, these are just random examples of unconnected people. So there are possibilities still in this recession if you've been made redundant. The key is to stay positive, stay proactive, because most people are being doom and gloom at the minute. If you do this by being positive and proactive, you find yourself right ahead of the queue in finding the right opportunity in this time. And just to add to that, when I got made redundant in 2009, I also found a job myself within 2 months of actually being made redundant. And that job ended up being one that pushed me further in my career. I ended up becoming head of finance at that company, and I really found myself progressing a lot in that company, even during a time of a recession. So the lesson to take away from this first point is do what other people are not doing during a recession. Get creative and bold to move yourself forward. The second way to turn a recession into an opportunity is to keep taking risks, okay? So in June 2008, I bought my first property. Okay, this is right in the heart of the global financial crisis, and at that time, interest rates were around 5.99%. Now, what was interesting about that time was that the available advantage at that time was that you could borrow more money, or you needed very little deposit in order to be able to buy a property. Okay, so I went ahead, even at 5.99% interest rate, went ahead in the midst of the global financial crisis and bought my first flat. Okay, and I'm mentioning that point because at this very moment, you might be somebody who might be wanting to get your foot on the property ladder for the first time. Okay, but you might be thinking, oh, is this the right time to be doing it in a recession? What if I lose my job, and so on and so on. What I would say is no risk, no gain, as it were. Take advantage of the opportunities at this very moment. And those opportunities could be, a stamp duty holiday, for example, or the fact that interest rates are very low at the minute, or the fact that you might be able to find good property deals, good opportunities in this time, because not many people will be searching for those property deals potentially. So for me, taking that leap had two benefits. First, I got my foot on the property ladder in a time of a recession and got a cracking deal on a property. Secondly, that property that I bought in the time that most people were not trying to buy a property then went off over the years to build up equity. And that equity provided us with the funds to explore some new opportunities years later on. So the lesson to take away from this very point is to seek available opportunities in this time of a recession and take calculated risks. Assess what you want to get into and take advantage of the perks that might be available in this very time. The third way to turn a recession into an opportunity is to keep solving problems, okay? Here's a story from back in 2008/9. At the end of 2008, my sister was struggling to pay nursery fees because nursery fees were very expensive. My mom came up with a business plan for us to start our own nursery, which at the time was laughable because we didn't have a single experience for how you'd start a nursery. Nobody in the family had childcare experience beyond my mum raising us as children. But my mother came up with this business plan and she called us all for a meeting and said, hey, let's all meet up. Why don't we start our own nursery as a way of solving your sister's problem? Because by doing that, maybe you guys, maybe all your children could even attend that nursery and end up perhaps paying little to no nursery fees at all. We all kind of laughed at it, but then we trusted our mum and went ahead with a plan. And the plan was this: everybody will go and get a loan in the middle of a recession. I went and got 10 grand. My sisters got 10 grand each. She got 10 grand. And altogether we had about 50 to 60,000 pounds, which we used to start a nursery business at the height of a recession. In 2009, we launched that nursery business. And that nursery, was radio silent for a couple of months, but then people started coming in, okay? And what we noticed over the years, that nursery business started to grow significantly and eventually became the largest nursery by capacity within the Greenwich Borough in London. What's the moral of this story here? The moral here is the more problems that show up in a time of recession, the more chances there are to solve those problems and create unique opportunities. So had we not started that particular nursery at a time of a recession, we wouldn't be where we are today in many ways, because that particular opportunity has helped us in so many ways. As I mentioned, for example, our children have been through that nursery, paying, very little fees to no fees in some instances for being in that nursery. And the loans we took out to start the project got paid off within 2 years of actually launching the business itself. So my point to you is, if you've been sitting on your hands about starting a side hustle or a business, don't think to yourself that because there's a recession, you should now take a step back, and maybe not go down that path of starting that side hustle or a business. It is even more of a reason for you to make sure that you are exploring new avenues and new opportunities, solving problems, creating those opportunities for yourself, and moving yourself forward. The fourth way to turn the recession into an opportunity is to keep investing. In 2010, I began my investing journey. Okay, and by that I mean through the stock market. And at that time, there was a big event that happened. There was a BP oil spill, and I gave into FOMO, because all my friends were investing or trying to take advantage of this opportunity. And I thought to myself, this might be a good opportunity to do it. And I bought in some shares and made about £300 profit from doing that. And I thought to myself, wow, this is it. And I then started to invest into various large companies, blue chip companies, tech stocks and things like that. And then down the line discovered funds and began investing passively and carried on that investing journey. But note, I began that journey only a year and a bit after, the global financial crisis, where things hadn't even recovered. And the fact that I began that investing journey where, prices generally were still quite low on the back of that global event, the fact that I began that journey and carried on investing consistently has been something that has completely changed our lives in so many ways, because we carried on that investing year after year after year, and it's just helped to radically build our net worth over time. The lesson to take away here is to fight the fear and actually invest your money. Okay, if you've got some money left over, actually invest that money, because you're not going to get any returns from trying to put it into a savings account anyway, and you'll be losing value to that money by exposing that money to inflation without getting a return on that money. So focus on budgeting at home, for example, to make sure that you are able to create that necessary buffer for you to invest, and get involved if you can in this time with investing your money with a view of looking at it long term. Number 5 is to keep learning. Okay, so in the summer of 2009, I qualified as a chartered accountant in May 2009, and I'd been through a technical qualification and got there, and there I was. And around the same time, I got made redundant. But what that did for me, having a qualification that was in demand, was that it really helped to push me into the marketplace, beyond me being creative and seeking out new jobs and, reaching out to people on LinkedIn. The fact that I had a qualification and had passed my exams first time at the time really made a big difference. So my point here is keep learning in this time of a recession, okay? This is how you will stay ahead, because you might even find yourself seeking out new career opportunities, which might mean that you would need to upskill and learn something else in order to take advantage of it, okay? Learning and doing a qualification would not only help you potentially get a job quicker, but it could also lead to helping you make a lot more money than you are currently making at the minute. The lesson to take away from this point is that upskilling gives you the opportunity to find a much better job, or even the opportunity to change careers. So take advantage of learning in this time of a recession. Okay, so I've got a final bonus point, which is to keep having fun, okay? So in a time of a recession, most people are doom and gloom, like I mentioned, but it's very important just for us, just for our livelihoods, for our mental health, for us to keep having fun. And I've got a story tied to this. In October 2009, I had a really terrible breakup. Okay, and I wasn't having any fun whatsoever. But what I decided to do on a weekend, I was reading a newspaper. In the Metro newspaper was an advert to come out for the weekend to a property investing seminar. And I thought, hey, it's free. I'm going to head out to this property investing seminar and see what it's all about. At least go and learn about property whilst I'm dwelling in my breakup scenario. So I went off, took the train, went into Victorian London and attended this property investing seminar. But the fact that I went off to instead have my fun learning about property led me in a totally different direction. At that particular event, I met the woman who would actually become my wife eventually. I met Mary and we became friends and got to know each other, and over time got engaged and got married and began my next life adventure. And 11 years later, we're still kicking, we're still having fun, and we're still enjoying married life, okay? So had I not actually left my house and said to myself, do you know what? I'm not gonna dwell in my pity. I'm just gonna leave and go and do something else, go and have a bit of fun. Had I not left my house to go and do something else, God knows where I might be today, okay? So my point is, keep having fun, keep enjoying yourself in this time of a recession, okay? Because it's very important for keeping up your morale as well as for keeping up your mental health in a good place. Guys, I really hope you've enjoyed this video today on how to turn a recession into an opportunity. Like I said, this is an alternative type of video to share some positivity, to be practical and to help us move forward. I really hope you've enjoyed that. I'd love to know in the comments, when you think about recessions, what is your biggest worry? Okay, let me know in the comments. And tied to that, which of these 6 points I shared today most resonated with you, gave you an idea for something that you might want to do differently or take action on. I'd love to know. Please drop it in the comments. If you really enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit that like button because it really helps to encourage a ton more people to engage with our videos. If you're new to our channel, welcome to the Humble Penny. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as the notifications bell so you get notified whenever we publish our videos twice a week, typically on a Tuesday as well as a Thursday. Thank you so much and stay positive during this time of a recession because you never know, life-changing positive things can also happen during times of recessions. Take care and speak soon.